Today I would like to talk about hydrogen, the biggest project ever in the history of Namibia. To the value of varying between on the exchange rate, depending on the exchange rate, varying between 170 billion Namibian dollars to 200 billion Namibian dollars. By far the biggest infrastructure project ever in the history of Namibia. The significance of this in terms of corruption and potential corruption is that this, with large infrastructure projects being proven all over the world, the bigger the project, the bigger the opportunity for corruption. Because in such big projects, it is common to make provision for bribes, to bribe politicians and to bribe people awarding these tenders, in which facilitators are involved, what we call tenderpreneurs. And I've also written about the way that it's happening in a chapter in the book recently published in 2024, Proving Corruption in Africa, in which I've written a chapter on what is it in for me, focusing specific on the corruption in the procurement, not only in Namibia, but a brief overview of other projects like Eskom in South Africa, and also other projects in Africa, including some other continents. Now, back to hydrogen. Namibia have a history of systemic corruption, because it become a culture of entitlement and greed in Namibia to corrupt and use facilitators for corruption, in which then the public procurement board that is supposed to overlook the awarding of tenders of mega projects bigger than 10 million Namibian dollars. Is supposed to take the accountability for providing reasons for awarding tenders. Now, that in itself was supposed to be an improvement. Public procurement board was supposed to be an improvement on the previous tender board, the centralized tender board. But it seems not to be the case, given the amount of corruption, the magnitude of corruption involved, the allocation of the Dream Roads projects in Namibia, costing about 78 million Namibian dollars per kilometer between Okanya and Windhoek, awarded to a company with a project manager that had never been involved in road construction project of that sort, based on the information provided by Mr. Hendrik Creer, a retired engineering consultant that have advised on this specific tender. Now, to put hydrogen and corruption in perspective, is that this project of this kind is comparable, or the one that is comparable. There are several that are comparable to about 5 billion Namibian dollars. That is the Nekadal Dam that eventually cost just below 5 billion. The petroleum depot in Walvis Bay, and several smaller projects in Namibia. So it means that this hydrogen project, awarded to IFN Africa, is about 40 times bigger than any other previous infrastructure project. Now, why all the hype about hydrogen? Hydrogen have been used since 1804 for the first time in a combustion engine. So it makes up 75% of the mass of the Earth. It is a colorless, tasteless gas that is highly toxic when converted into a gas at a very high temperature of more than 423 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, Namibia has abundant exposure to sunlight. That is where the green part of the green hydrogen is coming in. So, just to put hydrogen again into perspective, hydrogen is the splitting of water with electricity generated from green sources to make it green hydrogen through electrolysis into H2 and O2, meaning oxygen and a water molecule. 2 water molecules and 2 oxygen molecules. So hydrogen can be used for cars, but it's also a very corrosive gas. And it is also, if it's been transported under high pressure, it is explosive, it is toxic, and it's odorless. So it's a very inflammable gas under high temperature. Now, the potential for using hydrogen in Namibia is vast. China is the biggest producer of hydrogen from fossil fuels, but it also plans to use green hydrogen in future. Chile have made big strides in terms of hydrogen. But if you talk to economists, and I've talked to some economists, and I were at presentations of hydrogen, one will realize that there is no success story of green hydrogen any place in the world that made it a success story yet. However, Namibia has seen the potential for green hydrogen to use water at the coast of Lüderitz and to use wind power, the potential for that, and solar to split water into H2 and O2 molecules, and then through electrolysis, and then pump the gas through the desert from Lüderitz, quite substantial, few hundred of kilometers to Walvis Bay, convert it there into ammonia, and then sell it to ships in the form of ammonia. That is the current way to do it. Contract specific with Belgium in the pipeline. Germany is also very much interested in green hydrogen in Namibia because they want to move away from coal. So the important thing about hydrogen is it is showing vast potential, specifically in Africa, countries with where you can desalinate water. You can use renewable energy sources like biomass, wind, solar, and then use it to produce hydrogen in the form of a natural gas, and then convert that into ammonia as one option. There are also a number of spin-off projects that can result of that. That's, for example, a fertilizer plant. So Namibia issued a tender a few years ago for this mega project of at least 170 billion Namibian dollars, and the project was awarded to a company, Hyphen Africa, that only existed as a conglomerate for 6 months, to countries, three companies, in which two companies are coming each from South Africa and one from Germany, were awarded to the tender. And now this tender has been under a lot of controversy because of the secrecy surrounding the awarding of tender and the reasons pertaining thereto. In terms of the Public Procurement Act of Namibia, the Public Procurement Board is supposed to release the reasons for awarding the tender to this company as a pre-bidder status. That was supposed to have happened more than 18 months ago. Until date, no such reasons were provided. Mr. Graham Hopwood from the Institute of Public Policy Research was in contact with the Hydrogen Commissioner of Namibia, and he only got a response per WhatsApp, but no formal response on letterhead. So one cannot regard it as an official response, denying anything that the tender was not being done according to the book. The state house that played the significant role, seemingly in the facilitating the tender, all didn't provide yet, after more than 18 months, reasons pertaining to it. And later on, as things developed and public pressure built up, said that they could not provide reasons because it will expose the company secrets surrounding the awarding of the tender to IFAN Africa. However, this largest infrastructure project ever in the history of Namibia have been awarded the pre-bidder status, and after about 6 months, more or less, the final tender was awarded to IFAN Africa without any reasons provided. That is contradicting the Public Procurement Act, where it's evident that the government is not following its own regulations, and that is unethical. The fact that there's very limited, if anything at all, transparent about the awarding of the biggest tender ever in the history of Namibia is a question for concern, because the Public Procurement Board, as already stated, didn't provide any reasons. They are referring people like the IPPR to the State House. The State House didn't provide any reasons. The Ministry of Mines and Energy, that is the accountable ministry, said that they were not involved with it. Then the Select Committee on Natural Resources of Parliament, and the guy that is the chairman of that is Mr. Tweya. He was a deputy minister or a minister previously. He also could not get answers from the Ministry of Mines and Energy or from State House as pertaining to the confidentiality and the reasons why the project was awarded to IFAN Africa. So it's clear that this project has been handled by State House themselves under huge secrecy. And this has been an opportunity to publicize the awarding of the biggest tender ever in the history of Namibia, to create a market for bigger investment in Namibia, to showcase that Namibia could have done it by the book. I've attended also presentations delivered 2023 by Mr. Robert Sherburne, in which he stated that the hydrogen tender was done according to the book. I don't know what were his reasons for making such a statement. Of course, one cannot say that it was done according to the book, if the book is the Public Procurement Act and no reasons that were provided. I've also attended presentations by Hyphen Africa at the Coetzee Center during 2023, the end of 2023, in which people raised pertinent questions about the hydrogen and the reasons pertaining thereto that remain still unanswered. It is clear that there is an attempt from Hyphen Africa to get the public approval, public support for this project. This project has 3 pilot projects. Without completing the pilot projects during the pre-bidding status, the tender has already been awarded. Based on the awarding of the tender, the former late President, Dr. Hage Geingob, received during COP28 the African Presidential Green Infrastructure Investment Statesman Award. He also received early 2024 from the African Energy Chamber, awarded by the person of Farouk Ibrahim, also referred to as Ayuk, a award based on his contribution towards renewable energy in Namibia over the last few decades. Now, this Mr. Ayuk has got a very checkered past in America of corruption allegations that were serious, in which he obviously denied. And one wondered why the late president, received an award or accolade from an institution of which the chairperson is associated with huge allegations of corruption. So, the problem with hydrogen in Namibia is not its potential, obviously. The problem in Namibia is that we don't have the skills for people to work in hydrogen. It will require about 3,000 people, skilled people in hydrogen. About 180 scholarships have recently been awarded, including to unemployed people, for studying hydrogen in a number of countries, including Germany, of which probably the biggest. And now, why one would award necessarily a big portion of these scholarships to unemployed people, that is not necessarily the best people to be employed, is another question. However, we as Namibians are happy that people been given the opportunity for scholarships. If they're going to use it in Namibia is another question. The problem with hydrogen is that under the secrecy and very limited transparency of the biggest tender awarded to any company in the history of Namibia, that is not done according to the book, and most likely involved potential corruption, is a concern. Now, Namibia doesn't have the technical skills to pump hydrogen gas or natural gas, to put it that way, through the desert in a pipeline, to maintain the pipeline, And the gas is highly corrosive, it's flammable, it's explosive, and it's odorless. In Namibia, we don't even have the capacity to maintain government buildings and monuments, let alone highly technical projects. That is toxic if the gas escape. So this is the concern, that Namibia will not have the skills to do it. Namibia doesn't have the track record of maintaining such highly skilled projects. And the question is, how and why will Namibia now arrive with this type of skills, even if import the skills from outside, given the extent of secrecy involving the project? So hydrogen's got the potential, but if it's plausible, it's highly unlikely, and if it's probable, it seems not probable at this stage, because in no country in the world green hydrogen has been a monumental success at all. So from my point of view, given the facts that I've provided, and I don't claim to be an expert on it, if secrecy prevails around this tender, and it seems like that, the public has a lot of concern about it. Mr. Twiya, the chairman of the Parliamentary Commission on Natural Resources, has even been asked by the SWAPO Secretary General to remain silent and don't ask so many questions. Now that raises another concern. So, given the extent of and magnitude of corruption in Namibia, with large, extensive project in Namibia, like the Neckartal Dam that were planned for about 1 billion and eventually cost 3.6 billion, with another phase of 2.4 billion, as well as the petroleum export facility planned for about 1.1 billion, that region, and eventually cost 4.7 billion. Completely over budgeted, or under budgeted, underspecified. Why would this tender now be a success story, given the track record of under budgeting and under delivering on a project, even with assistance from other countries and financial assistance? Namibia have decided to buy about 24 billion stake into the hydrogen project. Now this can be done by several means without buying it directly. However, strings will be attached if you do that. So the green hydrogen sounds very green. It sounds very positive. It has a lot of potential, but there's no evidence of a momentum success story in any country with green hydrogen, and it's highly doubtful who will pay the ultimate price for the legacy of this monumentous project. And this will not be this generation of these politicians, but it will be the youth and their children will have to pay if this project is not flying. And that is exactly the problem of politicians receiving award on tenders during their lifetime. That doesn't stretch during their lifetime, but only the end result has been seen a few generations later. So I'm very much concerned about this tender and the controversy and the non-transparency associated with this tender, because it could have been used as the biggest marketing element for creating investment in Namibia, where we already sit since 2015 with the investment inflow problem into Namibia due to the NEP and the NEF, and which I will comment on in other videos. So this is the extent of the hydrogen tender, and we will see how does it unfold. It's supposed to benefit communities, to develop green villages, fertilizer plants, etc. But if it's going to materialize, is highly questionable. And who will pay the price for the awarding of the tender with such enormous risks involved? We need to see. But it will definitely not be the generation of these politicians or the ruling party. It will be the generation to be.